Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. If you're enjoying these episodes, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Today, I'll be talking with Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn is a left-handed pitcher, spent 9 years in the big leagues as a reliever. He's got some great insight for us today on how he prepared himself as a reliever. He's going to share his story on he was actually a position player before he was a pitcher and how he got drafted and how he got called up. He's going to walk us through what his routine was like, how he prepared for the game. So he's got a lot of cool insight. And then what he's doing now is helping coaching with CSN, which is a local junior college, and how he is affecting and impacting young athletes over at CSN. So again, make sure you go to mentaledge.training, where I have a free video course for you to look at. It's 4 videos. It's going to be awesome for you. Get you started in the mental edge, and go to mentaledge.training. So enjoy this with Mike Dunn. Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here. Welcome back to the Mental Edge Training Coach channel. Today, I got a special guest, Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn is a Las Vegas native, went to Cimarron Memorial High School, and was drafted by the Yankees. And we are excited to have him today. Mike, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
Well, it must be going good because you have 3 TVs behind you. What's going on there? What do we got going on?
I had to sneak out into the man cave. The kids are playing, and I didn't want any screaming going on. So I'm out here in the football central is what I call it. So
I love it. I love it. So like I told you before, I only bring on guys that are bald and that they have beards, and we all got to stick together in our club. So you're doing a good job.
There, you got to grow it where you can, right?
So Mike and I met each other. You were still playing, obviously we're both from Las Vegas, but you were playing at CSN, and you have a pretty cool story because everyone knows you as a pitcher in the big leagues. You're a reliever. You played for the Yankees, the Braves, the Marlins, the Rockies, all these different teams, but they didn't know that you were a position player before that.
Originally drafted as an outfielder, first baseman. So.
Yeah. So tell us that story. You were a position player. How did that all happen for you?
So my senior year, I got drafted by Houston, I believe in the 14th round, and they drafted me as an outfielder. I moved to Vegas, and everybody really only knew me as a pitcher, and I had to kind of talk to my coach. It was my senior year when I moved in. I called Mike Hubel. I'm like, hey, man, I can swing the bat too. And he went and saw me play some summer league games, and he's like, all right, you're going to be my number 3 hole hitter. And he's like, first base is kind of locked up, but we got spots in the outfield. So I was like, okay. So Houston drafts me as an outfielder. I actually thought I was going to get drafted as a pitcher. It was a lot of back and forth with all the conversations with teams. They basically asking me which one I wanted to do. And I was like, hey, wherever you guys want me to play, I'll play. I just want to play baseball. And that ended up falling through. For different reasons and stuff, and we were probably only about $1,000 off in the sense of it, but the talks kind of stopped. And I remember my dad, my agent hadn't even showed up yet, or my advisor hadn't even showed up yet, and our meeting had already ended because the guy's like, "Oh, are you going to sign for this?" And I was like, "No, I think we need to talk about it." He's like, "Okay, we're going," and he left. And I looked at my dad. I'm like, "We just said no to the big leagues, man, like to a professional baseball team," and that was kind of the end of our conversation with Houston at the time. And so I went on to CSN. Like I said, I was drafted as an outfielder. I get there and I played first base. I was a freshman just looking for a starting job, and I was playing first, and I didn't even pitch there. And out of my 2 years, I think I threw 3 innings in fall ball, and that was it. And then the Yankees drafted me as a first baseman, and then as I came back my sophomore year, I played outfield again. And so I never actually played the same position I got drafted at 2 years in a row. So, it was a fun little run. And then once I got there, they actually, fast forward about 3 or 4 years, they told me they drafted me to pitch, but I was, hitting at the time. They'd seen me pitching summer ball and stuff like that. So it was disappointing, but at the same point, I was still playing baseball, and I knew pitching was always something I could fall back on just from being left-handed, and I thought I was pretty good.
Yeah.
And so once I got on the mound, it kind of was a fast track for me throughout the minor leagues.
Yeah, because I remember correct me, what years were you at CSN?
I was there 04, 05.
4 or 5. Yeah. So I remember still playing and watching you throw from the outfield. I had all my big league time had kind of happened at this point, trying to get back into minor league baseball, AAA, crap like that. But I remember like, who's this dude in right field just chucking rockets? And they're like, dude, that's Mike Dunn. They're like, man, he can really throw. And that was the question. I'm like, well, does he pitch? Right? Because I mean, hitting's fine, whatever, but like that dude could really throw. And it was just interesting how you weren't maybe necessarily used, maybe how you wanted to be at that time. But man, it was jumping out of your hand. And I was like, that's what these guys are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, I got 2 years off of throwing. I didn't compile those innings on my shoulder and my elbow and stuff. And and when I was there, it didn't bother me that I wasn't pitching. I mean, I was having a blast playing the outfield. I mean, there's nothing better than throwing a runner out, trying to stretch a single into a double, or trying to go first or third on you, or making a bang bang play at the plate. And I really enjoyed doing that. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So you get to pro ball, and you're still hitting as a hitter, or are you just straight going to pitching right at pro ball?
No, I mean, whenever I signed, I even asked. I said, "Hey, man, do I need to bring my pitching glove?" And they're like, "Nope, you're going to play outfield and first base." So I went straight into rookie ball. Got there early. Obviously I was they don't have the draft and follow anymore, so I signed. I don't know, probably 2 weeks before the draft. So they had instructs were going on and stuff, and I went straight into playing games and rookie ball. And I was there for about a week, and they moved me up to high A. And I basically was the 2-hole hitter, playing center field every day for high A, and had a lot of fun. I was a little overmatched, I would say. But, coming from CSN where we swung wood bats, we played a lot of small ball, and they had me in the 2-hole behind, I'm going to blank on the name right now, but that year in 2005, he set the record for stolen bases in the Florida State League. So basically, like, hey, man, let him get on. He's going to steal second, or still third, whatever, and then just kind of move him over, get him in, whatever you got to do. And I was like, okay, well, I mean,
Are you bunting a lot, like a lot of sack bunts down the line?
Yeah, I mean, if he would, get a single, hit still second, they'd have me bunt him over to third, and kind of like, all right, that's what I'm doing. And
this is fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was defense, and then I come into my first spring training, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, your power numbers were a little down," and I'm like, I was bunting, doing a lot of hit and run, like kind of hard to hit for power whenever I'm being asked to do different things. So, it was the first year of the WBC, so I was actually in AAA spring training in my first spring training ever, and I knew this wasn't where I was going to be. It was just kind of a fill player. And I ended up staying after WBC and everything. I ended up staying in AAA all the way up until the last 2 days of spring training. And I played center field every day, and I led off for the team. And I think my batting average that spring training was like a 460, 470. And I was killing it. I was like cloud 9, like, here we go. And then the second to last day of camp, they're like, hey, you're going to go down to high A. You're going to be the starting center fielder, all this. And it was like, okay, cool. Well, then the last day of camp, they come up to me like, hey, we don't have a spot for you. Can't find you any at-bats anywhere. And I was like, wait a minute. I just went from the starting center fielder in high A to where I can't even go to low A. Like, I got nowhere to be. So it was a long process. And, the competitive nature, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I just had a great spring. I'm swinging the bat really well. And ultimately their goal, now looking back at it in the conversations we had, was to send me to AAA and have me be outmatched.
Yeah.
And actually struggle, and that way they could convert me to the pitching a little quicker. But it kind of backfired, and I did well, and it just boosted my confidence. And so they had to kind of put me into a slump. And I got to, I basically played once a week, and then I ended up talking with my hitting coach when I was down in low A about pitching. He brought it up to me, and I'm like, wait a minute. After a couple of days, I'm like, you're the hitting coach. Like, why are you talking to me about pitching? I'm like, man, I just want to be on the field. I just want to play baseball. And, that night they called and said that I was going to go back to extended spring training and basically DH every game, but do all my work with the pitchers. And I ended up throwing one bullpen. I probably played, 7 or 8 games. I was actually swinging the bat again really well. I threw one bullpen, and they called me in. I'm like, okay, I'm getting called up, going to low A or high A. And like, hey, we're scrapping this hitting thing. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I've thrown one bullpen
Already?
and I'm swinging the bat really well. So, yeah. And it was like, okay, a lot of, I probably didn't handle it right in a sense during the meeting. I got pretty pissed, and there was a lot of cussing and yelling back and forth. And it was just like, man, like, I just want to play baseball. It came down to it. I said, just stop messing, jerking my chain. Let's just be straightforward. Like, what do you want me to do? And I'll do it. Let's go. And they're like, will you give us 100% on the mound? I said, oh yeah, let's go. All right. So from that day on, it was just pitch. And I never really wanted to pick that again.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting point, because you're 100% in as a hitter at that point. Like, your mindset is, dude, I can hit. Like, I almost won a job in AAA at where I'm at. And fast forward maybe a couple of weeks, a month or two, now all of a sudden you're telling me I can't hit. And now you want me to pitch? Like, completely. Usually they just release you, right? And just say, this guy can't hit. Like, but I guess my point is, you were that athletic and that good and had that much arm strength that they saw something in you. They're like, okay, maybe he can't hit at the highest level. Maybe we're foreseeing that, but they're like, this dude could really throw. But you weren't probably quite ready for that yet, right?
Right. And it was just my first full season. So it was like, you're really giving this thing a chance?
Yeah, you're not 28, 29, right?
Right. Which, in the same point, I was 20, I think I was probably 19 or 20 at the time. And
you're a baby.
It was go time. So it was like, all right, I'm good. Let's go.
That's why I wanted you to share that. That's so interesting that sometimes that's our route, and so once you started to pitch and you're starting to get in, now you're 100% in. Did you miss hitting? Was that something that you always wanted to go back to?
Everyone kept saying it, and I just basically told them, look, like, they want me to pitch. I need to focus 100% on pitching. And I never really looked back at, like, man, I want to get an AB, or I think I can hit this guy, or anything like that. I mean, ultimately, as a hitter, like, especially after getting up to the big leagues and stuff, it was, I didn't care how hard you threw. I could hit a fastball.
Yeah.
And it was all of a sudden, when these guys are starting to break off these pretty good sliders, it was like, I'd swing. It was like, where'd that go? Like, why?
That's not very nice.
Yeah, like, okay. But I mean, it was very beneficial for me as a pitcher, because I got to spend, my first year in, I had a rookie level hitting coach, and then I went to high A hitting coach. And then my first spring training, I spent basically the whole spring training with the AAA hitting coach, and learning what they're teaching the hitters and what they're seeing off of pitchers and stuff like that. So when I got to the mound, it was kind of a reversal of, I kind of have an idea of what you're looking for in me. So now I'm going to use that against you. I might set you up one way where you're like, oh, he's definitely going here. And then, just flip the script and go completely opposite.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's so cool, man. So now tell us your call-up story. Like, how did you get to the big leagues?
All right. So actually, in 2009, I was the only guy on the 40-man roster that didn't get called up until September. Okay. And I was so kind of go back a little bit. My first year, I kind of piggybacked, and I only threw 30 innings, I believe. And then I went to the Hawaiian League, through like 10 to 15 more. And then my first full season as a pitcher, they're like, hey, you're only going to throw 100 innings this year. Well, at All-Star break, I had like 86 innings pitched. And I was like, so we had the meeting. I'm like, I only got 14 innings left the rest of the year, and we're only halfway. And they're kind of like, okay, well, how do you feel? I said, I feel great. Mm-hmm. So they just limited my, as a starter, just to get innings and stuff like that. And they limited my innings. But they left my pitch count at 100. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to punch everybody out. I'm going to use all 100 pitches, and let's go.
Right.
Well, then they caught wind of that. So they cut my pitch count down to like 70, and they're like, hey, you can pitch as deep as you want. So then it was like, oh, all right, now I was getting into like the 6th, 7th inning, and I'm like, man, I've never done this before, but I'd have like 4 or 5 strikeouts. I'm like, there's nothing fun about that. I want to punch. And so
who cares about longevity, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was 06, 07 was low A, and then when I went to high A in 08, I was a starter again, and I hated starting. Like, I wanted to be a reliever. I was a max effort guy. To try to stay composed for 5-6 innings just wasn't my nature. My nature was, let's go. I'm going to let it eat. I'm coming at you with everything I got for, at that point was, 3 innings. And so about mid-season into high A, I get moved to a reliever, and never done any relieving in minor league baseball or anything like that at that point. I was in high A for about a month and a half, got called up for the Double A playoffs. And I pitched 1 game for them, and then all of a sudden I'm in the playoffs and I'm their setup guy. Well, then by the championship series, I'd moved into the closer's role for it. And then our pitching coach is like, hey, man, have you ever thrown back-to-back days? I'm like, this is the first year I've ever even pitched out of the pen. He's like, well, how do you feel? And we weren't allowed to do that at the younger levels. So they called the pitching coordinator and they said, hey, as long as he feels good, let him go. And I remember going out there, and it was just, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, it gave me I think being a position player and having that opportunity to be a part of every game, no matter if you started or not, you're into the game and you can affect the outcome of the game for your team, is kind of like that same mentality I had as a reliever. Is even if I'd thrown 3 days in a row, there was still a chance I could get in this game. Right. And I love that part of it. And so going to 2009, I'm back into Double A for a first full season, and I'm throwing the ball really well. I'm seeing all these guys move, and I'm seeing what's happening at the big league level, and I'm just like, man, like, what do I got to do? Like, I don't know what I got to do. Right. And I finally get called up to AAA, and we're having a game, and like I said, I'd had some pretty good relations with some of the hitting coaches throughout. So I get up to AAA, and I'm like, hey, man, talking to the hitting coach again and all this. And so we get to, the call-up date, right there before September, and before the game, you don't normally find out until after the game. And obviously, if you're going to get called up, you don't pitch and all this. Well, before the game, one of the coaches comes up to me and he's like, hey, man, congrats. I'm like, for what? Be here? I've been here for like a month, and he's like, no, you're getting called up after the game. And I was like, huh? Like, I freaked out, and he's like, wait a minute, you don't know? I'm like, no one said anything. And he's like, okay, don't say a word, blah, blah, blah. So all the pitchers go down the line. We're all warming up before the game, kind of doing our routines and stuff, and everyone's talking about it. It's like, tonight's the night. Who's going to get called up? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, hey, they already told me I'm going, even though they really haven't. So
right.
I can probably stay and finish out the playoffs, and I'll meet you guys because you guys are all been up before. I haven't been up. And one of our guys, he got hit. He missed the ball, hit off his glove, clanked it, hit him in the eye. Well, then I ended up pitching that. So right as they called down, well, every time the phone rang, I'm like, it ain't me. I'm getting called up, And all of a sudden they're like, Dunn, you got the lefty. He's up third. I'm like, wait, what? Okay. So like I rocket fire. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not getting called up. So my mentality is like,
yeah. So to preface that, because when you're getting called up, you're not playing that game typically.
Right. Yeah.
They don't want to.
You're fresh for when you get up there. And so I was like, all right, let's go. My mindset changed. Let me get this lefty out. I go in, and I never pitched shorter than like an inning in the third or 1 inning at the time. So I come in, I punch the guy out for the third out, and I come sit down. They're like, hey, you're done. And I was like, well, that was actually pretty easy. I'm like, okay. But, I'm showering, after the game, I get in there, and they're handpicking everybody. Everyone's going in, and I'm just like, dang it. Why did that happen? Why did I have to go in and face one guy? And so I sat there for quite some time like, okay, are they going to come get me? Are they going to come get me? Nothing happened. So I start taking my clothes off, getting ready to go, start heading for the shower, and they're like, the manager, Dunn, get in here. I'm full sprint, just into there, and everyone's just clapping because I was the only one that hadn't been called up that year. So they had all had their own experiences before. So I think they'd found out I was told before the game, so they wanted to make it as if I wasn't going to get called up.
Okay. So they're messing with you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They definitely had fun with it.
That's awesome. So you get called up. Now, at what point of the year was this?
September 1st was my first day. So I was just a September call-up, and then we were in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I remember walking into the hotel, and I'm on cloud nine.
Yeah.
I pitch in the big leagues, and I just get into my hotel room, and I'm talking to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I think they messed up. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, this was the biggest, nicest hotel room I'd ever been in. And I'm like, I think it could be someone else's room. Like, this isn't for me, And
it's sweet.
Yeah. Like, man, this is awesome. What do you mean I don't have a roommate? You know what I mean? Like, there's no one else in. I got my own space, and it was pretty cool. And I show up to the field the next day, say hi to everybody, and the game starts. And I remember sitting out there in the bullpen, and the mound looked like it was 4 miles away. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm in the big leagues, and that mound looks tiny from where I'm at.
Right.
But I remember telling one of the guys, I'm like, dude, these lights are so bright. Like, it felt like a day game, coming from the minor leagues, the small stadium, small. I was like, it's like a day game at like 8 o'clock at night. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. So, and which team was this with?
That was with the Yankees.
That's with the Yankees. So, essentially the biggest team in baseball. Right?
Yeah, like push on their way to their national championship or the World Series.
Yes.
If I'm got junior college in my head, so yeah, they win the World Series that year.
Awesome. So you got to experience New York, what it's like to play there. You're playing with some of the biggest stars in the game. I got to ask you, what are the fans like there? How do they treat you? What did you see there?
I mean, for me, it was amazing. A lot of fun. I went up. I only pitched 4 times, I believe, for them throughout that because a couple of the other lefties that were available were banged up throughout the year, so they needed to make sure that they were healthy for the playoff push. And so I only got to pitch 4 times, which I think I'd already surpassed over 100 innings that year as a reliever. So they were kind of cutting me down in ways, yeah. And so it was just a lot of fun. I was up there just to get the experience, talk to the guys, and really just kind of learn from the best. Talking about that 09 team, it's the best of the best. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot.
So let's dive into the mindset of a pitcher. You started in the minor leagues. Now you're mainly just bullpen now. What is it? How do you prepare yourself as a bullpen type guy?
Oh, I mean, you can go into hours of this. It's prep for a series. Especially Billy Wagner kind of taught me the most whenever I went to Atlanta in 2010 on how to use video and what to look for in video and stuff like that. So I worked with him a lot in 2010 on things to look for in hitters. And he's like, don't get on here and just watch yourself pitch. And, hey, yeah, you struck that guy out on 4 pitches, cool. But what did he tell you? What kind of information did he give you in the way he swung the bat, what his stride looked like, and stuff like that? So we can cut that. And so I would do all my video prep the day before the series or the day of, depending on where we were traveling from. If we were at home, I was able to get a lot of it in the night before. And then I get to the field early. I would normally show up around noon. Pitcher's stretch was normally anywhere between 3:30 and 4, depending on what team I was with. And so I had 3 hours to either get a workout in or go in and get my video work done. And just kind of, I didn't always look for the hitter's weaknesses. I wanted to look for my strengths, how it played against the hitter, whether it be his weakness or not. But I also wanted to know what the hitter's weakness was if I got into a pinch and I needed to make a pitch. Where do I need to go with it? But ultimately, if it's your weakness and my weakness, I'm probably going to miss because it's my weakness. So I'm going to stick to my strength.
Right.
I'm going to do what I know I do well, and I'm going to stick to it and figure out how or where I need to attack you. And once I got that down, that 3-game or whatever 4-game series, I already know now. I have my own notebook that I review every day. But, my routine was sound. We'd stretch, come in, eat, review my notes, and and then once the game started, for the bulk of my career, I pitched from the 7th inning on, and I could kind of sit down there, and it was my time to relax. The first 4 to 5 innings, but once that 5th inning hit, my stretch started. It was game on, mindset's locked in. And I knew exactly where that lineup was every inning. And if there was a double switch or anything like that, where are those lefties that I'm going to face? In 2010, I was just a lefty specialist in a sense. So, I had the Howards, the Utleys, I had all those guys that I had to focus on. So it was like, look at the lineup. I know this is my section. The rest of it's going to go to somebody else. So every time that section came around, I was mentally preparing myself for that phone call. So whenever the phone rang, it wasn't like, oh, me. It was, I anticipated my name to be said every time the phone rang.
Yeah, you got to have that mindset of, I know when that lefty's coming up, I'm likely coming in. It's going to be
Yeah.
me, right? It's not the other lefty that's here. It's me, rather than being shocked or
Right.
surprised by it, right?
Yeah, and I was kind of, for the bulk of my career, I didn't get a whole lot of clean innings. It was come in and bail us out. So I knew as things were going, I couldn't just sit back. This is my time. Like, here it comes. And, everybody's a little bit different. Like, you got your long guys kind of hang out. Like, at the beginning of the game, the long guys are the ones that are locked in, keeping track of pitch count for the starter and how everything's going and stuff like that. And then about the fifth inning, the roles reverse, and the back end guys are starting to now focus in and lock in. And, it was like you had separated bullpens. You had the guys that were locked in early, and then they would come in and relax, and then these guys would go out and start locking in. And you learned everyone else's routines to where you weren't getting in anybody's way, and no one's joking around when the phone is, and it's like, hey, man, it's you. Like, wait, what? Like, you made sure you were locked in, and you never got caught off guard.
That's great. Tell us about, for maybe there's someone that's not listening that doesn't know what your stuff looked like, or what, like, your velocity. Like, tell us and explain maybe how your stuff even developed from the minor leagues when you started pitching to the big leagues. What did that look like for you?
All right. So coming up as a starter in the minor leagues, I basically was 88 to 92. Was every day I went out there as a starter. I could jump it up to 93, 94 here and there for one or two pitches, but again, that was over a course of 5-6 innings. And my first game out of the bullpen in high A, after I'd been begging the manager to put me in the pen, we had 3 rainouts in the Florida State League. Couldn't push anybody back anymore. And he's like, all right, you 3 guys, you're all starters. Figure it out. You're going 3 innings each. And I jumped in. I said, look, you guys are legit starters. I'll take 7, 8, 9. You guys can fight over who's going to start the game.
Okay.
Well, I come into that game and I'm sitting 94, touching 97, and I strike out 7 to 9 guys. And the manager's like, that's what you want to do. Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have. And he's like, why can't you do that as a starter? I'm like, I can't let it eat that many times, 100 pitches. Like, I can go out there and let it eat for 35 pitches, 40 pitches, and I'm good. But after that, you might as well pull me, like, I'm gonna be up there breathing heavy and just be gassed. So in the first 7 years of my career in the big leagues, I averaged 95 miles an hour on my fastball. I could run it up to 99. My slider was anywhere from 85 to 91 whenever I was younger, but had its best action at 86, 87. But I learned how to manipulate it to make it a sharper cutter, or if I needed to slow it down and make it a little bit loopier just to kind of get you off of the velocity.
Right.
But bulk of my career, I was fastball slider. And as I got older and the last couple years with the Rockies, my velocity dropped to 90, 91, maybe, I don't even really know if I hit 92. I basically was pitching at 90. And my slider pretty much stayed at 85, 86, but that velocity change wasn't really there anymore, so I developed a curveball. Okay. And I threw it a little bit early on, but I'd use it 1% to 2% of the time. And when I got there, I started using it a lot more just because I needed that separation and velocity. My curveball, I probably threw the curveball as harder than any other pitch in my arsenal, and it was like 78 miles an hour. I'm like,
so it's kind of a get me over type pitch for you.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm watching these other guys throw like 83 mile an hour curveballs. I'm like, dude, how do you do? Like, I'm literally throwing this as hard as I can. And I was just like, I don't get it. But it worked for me. It gave me that separation, and it just, it was fun throwing hard.
That's gas. I mean, to know what it feels like to throw 97, 98, 99, that's got to be just an amazing feeling. So talk about your preparation in regards to what you did off the field, the gym, your workouts. What did that look like for you?
Pretty much everything I did, I based around a 3-day schedule. With it came into the, we'll say, training room and maintenance, maintenance for my body and my arm. I did everything in a 3-day regimen where I'd come in and get either Hermansen done on me day 1, day 2, they would do the scraping mechanisms, and then day 3, they would come in, and if I had a hot spot, and we would really focus on just a muscle flush. And it didn't matter if I pitched or not. I was in there at 1:30 every day getting something done because I wanted my arm to feel as good as it could every single day. I didn't want to have peaks and valleys. Like I always felt like if I got super sore and I went into the training room and talked to the trainer, it's too late. Like soreness is already set in. I want to keep my body used to, like if this was 100% and this was, say 60%, I wanted to stay right around 80%, and I didn't want my body to feel better because the days that it felt really good and I had a lot of energy, you overthrow and you use big muscles instead of relaxing and just letting it go. And then days that you're down, you end up trying to do too much and you're herky jerky, and then your location gets wild. So I tried to keep my body in the 85% range every single day.
Okay.
And so then you go into the gym, and it was very similar. Day one would be a total body workout. Day 2 would be cardio and core, and day 3 was cardio. And then I would just repeat it every 3 days. It was the exact same thing. Go in and keep it going. You talk to guys that are like, oh, I work out after I pitch. And I'm like, well, you're a reliever. If you pitch 2 days in a row, you're going to work out 2 days in a row?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, if you pitch 3 days in a row, you can work out 3 days in a row? Oh, no, I wouldn't. I said, well, then you don't work out after you pitch. But then if you get 4 days off, are you not going to work out for 4 or 5 days? And then when you go in the gym and you work out, then you're going to get sore from just working out. So I wanted my body to know exactly what it was going to expect on a daily basis from me. Every day I was going to come in, my workouts, I wasn't going to strain my body, or it wasn't, I stayed consistent with my workouts to where my body knew what it was going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with my arm with pitching. I didn't want to, I pitched 5 days in a row, I think was the most I'd ever thrown. But I was the king of 4 out of 5, coming up with the Marlins. And it was, I never felt bad. Like it was let's go. Like
you could handle that.
Yeah. Keep the body feeling the same every single day. And you're not going to stress the body in any way.
What was your recovery like after games? Were you an icer? Did you do all your shoulder exercises?
I was not I hated ice. Hated it.
Yeah.
I felt like the only time I ever iced was if I knew for sure I was down the next day. If we had an off day the next day, because I always felt like with ice, I woke up tight.
Yeah.
I would go in and I would do my arm maintenance stuff, which was again on a 3-day, depending on if it was just band work, if it was weights, or if it was stabilization with the trainer. It was on a 3-day plan after games and stuff like that. So it just depended on what day it fell on how it all managed. And then obviously, like if workload starts to get high, you can kind of tone things down in the gym and tone things down on the recovery side of, instead of doing 12 to 15 sets of this, hey, we're only going to go 8 and cut the weight in half, just to kind of, let's get some blood flow, flush the area, but let's not really strain any more muscles just because this is what we do. You got to listen to your body. I mean, your body tells you everything you know. You just got to be willing to listen.
When you got into the off season, would you say a heavy type lifter? Did that change a lot from the season?
I definitely lifted heavier in the off season, but we work out with Tim Soder Physical Therapy, and Tim's been my trainer. I think I jumped on board with him in 2006. I believe it was the first year with him, and we did everything in month segments. So like the first 2 weeks in the first month, you're kind of just getting back in the gym and getting your body used to it again, and then you're starting to kind of pick up weight as it went on. Right. And then so that was November, and then December would hit, and December was our heavy month. Like we're getting after it. We're pushing a lot of weight around. January comes around, we're doing plyometrics. So now, the weight level goes down, but the heart rate's through the ceiling, and you're keeping it going. And so like you had your time to build up in the first 2 months, and then it was, now you've got your body in the best shape you can. Now let's trim it down and get back into baseball shape. Right. And as a reliever, you're a sprinter in a sense. Like it's you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. So it's the quick recoveries, and you want to keep that heart rate high. And how fast can I recover from pushing my body as hard as I can, taking a 20-second break and doing it again? Can I keep the same performance level?
Are we seeing a lot more from a training perspective? Like you mentioned sprints. Are we seeing a lot more now with training? Are pitchers sprinting more than long distance running?
Around the league, it's more sprint work you see is being done. I remember when I first came up, it was all distance. Everything, it was like, hey, here's a stopwatch, go until I tell you to stop, or 45 minutes, whatever it is. And the younger kids coming up are definitely built more around the sprint work, but I still believe that the longer flushes, for me at least personally, helped here and there. It wasn't every single day, but maybe once a week, go out there and go for an hour and a half, and just kind of not at a fast pace, but just get that body moving and get that all that lactic acid out of you, and depending on your workload.
Okay, very cool. So now tell our audience how long you've been retired, and let's shift into what you're doing now at CSN.
I got released June 18th of 2019. It was kind of they knew I was banged up. I knew I was banged up, and there was nothing I could do. Surgery wasn't an option. It was just deal with. I had shoulder surgery, and it didn't really help with what was going on with me. And it was a mutual thing. Like, it was kind of, I saw writing on the wall. I came home, and I had 2 boys. I got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it gave me time to actually be dad.
Yeah.
I've lived in Vegas for 18 years now, and last year was the first time I was here in the summer. And it gets hot.
It's not fun in Vegas in the summer.
Definitely gets hot. Needless why we're building a pool currently. I said, we're staying, need a place to cool off.
Absolutely.
So I've been retired almost a year now, and I love it. My body feels great. It's banged up here and there when I do different things. If I play golf 3 days in a row, my knee and shoulder might hurt, but hey, it's okay. Things you got to deal with.
That's right. And so you're retired for a year. Congratulations on that, 'cause your career was awesome. Next thing you know, it'll be a decade, and you'll be like, holy cow, what's going on? But now when I go to scout CSN, which CSN is a local junior college of Southern Nevada, one of the best JCs in the nation, really. And you've been helping out with the pitchers. Tell me what that experience has been like, and if you have any stories that you've been able to help. You don't have to name names or anything, but maybe you've been able to help with a certain kid.
Yeah, it all kind of just started when I got home, and I talked to the coaches over there, and I'm like, hey guys, like, do you mind? Like, they wanted me to come out. I always kind of came out and talked to the players, at Cimarron and stuff like that. And I went out and I talked to them, and I just kind of would show up once a week, kind of helping out where I can. And they asked me if, they basically told me, come out whenever you want, however often you want. And I talked to my wife, and I really enjoyed going out there and spending time with the guys and stuff. And so being around the game, obviously, it's what I did for my entire life. It's what I know. And so going out there, I didn't just work with just the pitchers. I worked with everybody. Like you said, we talked like being a hitter, being a first baseman there, being an outfielder there. And, the only thing I didn't do there was pitch. But I tried to help out and be as open as I could to all the players. Obviously, I'm going to gravitate towards the pitchers because it's what I did for the bulk of my career. And, a lot of guys, we got a lot of communication. I think it was nice for some of the coaches to have me out there, and it was nice for me to have the other coaches there too. But I just kind of was a soundboard. Sometimes what Gidge was trying to tell the pitchers, they, sometimes, like, as being a player, it's how you perceive the information, how, that lingo that you hear. And I could say the exact same thing just in a different way, and they could understand it. And then other times I would say stuff, and they'd look at me like, what the hell is this guy talking about, And Gidge could kind of, route them around. And so we were able to kind of bounce back and forth with each other on the pitchers and stuff. And, had some really good mental conversations with some of the players there. I challenged a couple of the players on who was going to be the best pitcher and, the best player. And, and I flat out, like, I think there was 3 of them that were challenged, and I think all 3 of them thought I was going to select a certain one, and I didn't. I picked somebody else. And so it was to push the other guys to see what they were doing and outwork the person next to you. Don't just be as good as the person next to you. Push to be better than the person next to you. And you guys are going to feed off each other, because once you get the internal competition, the bar just keeps getting raised. which that's just helping the team. The better you're doing, the better the team's doing. And if we can get everybody on board with that, the better the whole group will be.
Yeah, there's something about holding each other accountable. I remember growing up and coming up when I was a young player, bro, and you heard about the Braves, the Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, Avery, all those guys, how they pushed each other. And I think once that was kind of more open, you started to see that in different staffs, and I'm sure, hey, dude, we're on the same team, but let's go. Let's work this. We're going to have a challenge in this competition here, whether it's in the weight room or whatever the case may be. And it gets you to where you're mentally ready and prepared, and okay, I'm ready to go. You're not going to beat me in this aspect of the game.
Well, it's funny you bring up the Braves. So in 2010, I get traded to the Braves. So it's my second big league spring training. And I remember 3 days in, Bobby Cox has a team meeting with the pitchers, and he's look, we don't need someone out there to tell you to run. We don't need to tell you to go 15 poles, 10 poles, whatever it is. He's going to have something, and you do what you want. You do what you need to do, because this is the big leagues. And if you don't do your job, I'll just bring the next person up to do it.
Right.
So it was that was that standard of everybody pushed each other. And it wasn't just a set routine of what you were going to run or what you were going to do that day. It was, and as a young kid, I'm trying to okay, do I need to do distance? Do I need to do sprints? Whatever it was. And I'm just trying to stay back, but focus and get quality work in. We're coming from the Yankees. It was drill sergeant, here it is. You had your entire day planned out for you, how long you were going to run and all this. And, so you move into, now you have to grow as a player yourself and around guys that just constantly push to be the best that it was. It was amazing, amazing time.
That's interesting. You point that out, that you had one big league team that had a certain strategy. You have to almost check these off that's your work. And then the other team, nope, you're a professional. You're going to do your thing. Which one did you like? Did you have preference between which one?
No, not really. I really enjoyed both. I pulled, a lot from the Yankees. I'm a very structured person as it is. My wife, she laughs at me all the time. And people be like, hey, meet up at 12. And they're like, they know when they tell you, that means you're going to be there at 11:45. I'm like, hey, I'm late. I'm early to everything I do. I don't want to be rushed. And that's why I got to the field as early as I did. And it was, if I forgot something, I had time to go get it or whatever it was. I had time to figure out my day. But there was different aspects that I pulled from every team I played with that I just kept building into my routine. And a lot of things, I got very structured. So I brought that from the Yankees, the pushing and just the inner circle group that we had with Atlanta. I tried to not enforce it, but I tried to have that in all the clubhouses, like in Miami and Colorado, the constant open communication between players. And, the one big thing I feel like baseball is missing nowadays, I remember back in 2010, it was mandatory. The game was over. No one was leaving for 2 hours. Everyone ate their food after the game, and you talked the game. You had the relievers in one corner. You had starters in another section. You had the position players over here, and then all of a sudden the whole group just kind of mingled, and we went over the game, what happened during the game. Our game plan was this, and we had to change to this, and the guys who pitched in that game gave their input to the guys who didn't pitch, and it was just that constant baseball talk.
Right.
And where now with the electronics and stuff like that, there's times where you walk into a clubhouse and everyone's face is just in their phone, and it's like, hey guys, how you doing? And it's like, oh, yeah. In Atlanta, it was mandatory. No matter who you were, no matter your service time, if you walked in the clubhouse and there was other guys there, you walked around, you said hi to everybody, and that's just the way it was. If I beat Chipper Jones in there, he was going to come to my locker and say hi to me. That was just the atmosphere that we had. Everyone was going to have open communication.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of.
Never experienced anything like that. That'd been pretty cool. I think that's the team camaraderie, right? Everyone gets to know each other and kind of knows what's going on, and not only your really more your personal life too. You actually care what's going on with your wife, kids, because a lot of time you get to the big leagues, except for these really young phenoms that get up early. A lot of these guys now they're married, they might have a kid or two or 3 or 4, and it's just a completely different. It's more of a family atmosphere. That's pretty cool.
And you end up spending more time with that group of guys than you do with your family.
Yeah.
until the off season. Then you got 4 months to try to cram it all in and get it back.
Well, this is awesome, man. One last thing I want to ask you is, you've now experienced almost 10 years of the big leagues. You had a lot of success. What would you tell yourself? What would you tell Mike Dunn as a teenage ball player on the mental side?
Cool your jets sometimes. Take a deep breath. I learned throughout the minor leagues with the Yankees, doing different mental coaches and different tests that we did, that I'm a very high strung person as it is. So I'm already at that top tier. If I try harder, I'm putting my body in a bad spot. So it's like, hey, you're already there. Stay calm, stay there. Don't try harder, because when you try harder, you're actually straining your body and you're not performing as good as you can.
That's good.
I
know it.
Let it eat. Let's go.
Let it. I'm always on Simma, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Pop anytime I got to.
That's right. Well, dude, I appreciate you taking the time to come on board with me today. This has been great. I know kids are starting to really enjoy this, and just listening to big leaguers, listening to coaches, listening to scouts and recruiters, all types of just different information, and everybody has something different. And I think that's what's valuable about it. So I wish you the best of luck getting your pool in, because it's going to get 100 degrees here pretty soon. Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, I will see you around. And again, thanks for coming on board with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Okay. Take care of yourself. We'll see you.
Okay.
Okay.